Welcome to Button Mash, WCRD's finest gaming news and commentary show. I'm Joe Noop, and with me as always is the very beautiful
Lucas Schmidt.
How you doing, Lucas?
Good. We're actually WCRD's only video gaming show, so you really should listen to us.
We're all you have.
Yeah, we're all you have for all your video games. Don't go to those big websites because
you want the personalized feel.
Yeah,
You want us to just take you into this comfortably. All right. So we have plenty of news today, and we might be talking about the new Call of Duty trailer as well for a few minutes. We will be talking about the new Call of Duty trailer. I'm kind of excited. Let's do this, Lucas. So you may remember we ended last week's show with a quick update on the Mighty Number 9 Kickstarter developed by Kaiji Inafune, the original creator of Mega Man. Mighty Number 9 is essentially Mega Man in everything but name, art style, gameplay, and he created this Kickstarter in order to fund this new game because Capcom wanted to completely own the rights to them. They weren't giving them back to Kaiji Inafune. So there's been a really cool update on this story. You may remember he's including the level designer from the original Mega Man, Naoya Tomita, Street Fighter Alpha 3 and Darkstalkers 3 character designer Kimo, original Mega Man composer Manami Matsume, which I'm excited about, and Mega Man Legends art director Shinsuke Kamaki. The update on this story comes from, I believe by the time that we aired that original story, they had hit their original goal of $900,000 in just under 4 days. But the stretch goal was reached at $1,200,000. Then they blew that out of the water for a total of $1,837,000 and change, with just $400,000 left to go to reach the absolute pinnacle of the funding. What that gets us as gamers is, let's see, promising Mac and Linux versions of the game was released through Steam. There's going to be the new game plus mode, turbo mode, and a making of documentary. And I'm excited about this since we reached the if we reach the 2.2 million mark, everyone's gonna get, you get a PlayStation 3 version, you get a 360 version, and you get a Wii U version. We get those versions available for purchase on the mega platforms. So Lucas, what do you think about that?
Well, I am ashamed to call myself a gamer right now because I can't say I've ever played a Mega Man before, so there's not a whole lot I can contribute to the story other than the fact that guy's name is Kimo. Was that last and first name spelled exactly the same?
The Street Fighter Alpha 3 and Darkstalkers 3 character designer Kimo. Yes.
Wow, that's
not an editorial error. All right, so we'll keep that story in the pipe in case it reaches the 2.2 million. Let you know. Oh, Lucas, almost forgot. We have a bit of good news. So as a up-and-coming game commentary show, what we want to bring you is the absolute plethora of content. So not just news, but we're working on getting some reviews for you fine folk, too. I just recently sent an email to Warner Brother Interactive, the people behind the new Batman Arkham Origins game, and I didn't expect a response back yet. I didn't even expect anything other than a no. So what's surprising is they gave me a response, and they said that we are on the list for consideration. It's not a no, and I'm happy enough with that. The game releases on October 25th. And the PR agent I spoke to said that she will let us know closer to the release date. So we may be bringing you a Batman Arkham Origins review.
I will take a kind of sort of maybe if we get to it over a no any day.
Any day.
Yeah.
All right, Lucas. What's the news story you got?
Well, you were talking about Call of Duty. The new one, Call of Duty Ghosts, it's on track to be the most pre-ordered game of 2013, which normally wouldn't be surprised, but I'm actually a little bit surprised just because of how well Grand Theft Auto has been doing.
Yeah, that surprised me. Yeah.
Grand Theft Auto 5 has actually made all of its money back. And as if that wasn't, that's just off of pre-orders. The game doesn't come out for a whole nother week. It's made all of its money back just on the pre-orders, and the budget for the game is actually the largest budget for any game ever. The only other artistic medium that was able to rival it was one of the Pirates of the Caribbean movies, which I believe was like 300 million. Yeah. Grand Theft Auto was like 250 million.
And
somewhere around there.
What's the number for GTA 5?
Like 250 million roughly. It was a couple like It's like 40 million.
Their
less or
estimates
so.
of 267 million.
Okay.
And I actually have some information here on that. They didn't specify a source, but their site claims that the site that released the story is claiming that the development and marketing budget was anywhere between 170 million to 267 million, which does make it the most expensive video game ever created, far surpassing the $200 million spent on Star Wars: The Old Republic, the MMO that didn't do too well.
Yeah, that ended up reverting to free-to-play because of its lack of subscriptions.
And it looks like, quote, industry experts are predicting that the new GTA could move 25 million copies in its first year of release, adding up to the sales of 1 billion, more than 1.5 billion. That figure presumably comes from the EDAR analyst Jesse Divinich, who told NowGamer in November 2012 that he expects the game will sell upwards of 25 million in its first 12 months.
Man, that's ridiculous.
Absolutely.
And Call of Duty seems to break the record every year. It would be nice for a little bit of change of pace. Have a Grand Theft Auto in there. Although I know Grand Theft Auto 4 did incredibly well.
Yeah, GTA 5 seems like the absolutely streamlined version though of GTA 4. Like there were problems with GTA 4 that was apparent, and I feel like GTA 5 is going to be a much smoother ride for everyone.
The map was actually released yesterday, or leaked.
Yeah,
Released
leaked.
yesterday or the day before sometime.
It's huge.
It's
you can fly
massive.
a commercial airliner across it.
Yeah. All right. On
Next
to
story?
another story. Obviously, as a lot of people know, or rather don't know because of Microsoft's terrible PR, the Xbox One has gone through a lot of changes. You've probably heard stories of like a 24-hour online checkup through your Xbox. Otherwise, you can't play your games. Not being able to trade them in or buy them pre-owned, or just like weird regulations with them, like fees for doing so. Well, Microsoft came out with an infographic the other day, kind of just explaining it all.
And we'll post this infographic on our Facebook and Twitter page for those of you who can't see it yet.
Yeah, but basically, you can, it works. They basically took 2 steps backwards and reverted back to the Xbox 360 policies, where you can play online or offline all the time, no restrictions at all. Your games can be traded to friends and whatnot with no like penalty or anything as such.
What is the family sharing plan? The Xbox Gold
and then
Home?
There's Home Gold, which is basically if one person buys Xbox Live Gold, then like anyone in the house on other consoles, even I believe, can also use that account. So it's the same account can be shared between a couple different people, and it's not just shared as in like it's customized shared. So
it's a smart consumer move, and even like Netflix is doing a similar thing where people have been gaming the system like that for years now, where your mom will buy the Netflix account or the Xbox account, and then you and your brother will use it at like 2 different places, even though you don't live in the same house. So it's really just, it's a good example of a company realizing like this is the nature of the market. People exploit it because they can. So let's not call it an exploitation. Let's call it a feature, and allow them to feel like they're not being gypped when they have to finagle their way through a system.
Yeah, because even the people who share the account in the same house, they actually get like their own friends list, their own name, and everything. So it's kind of 2 separate accounts, but 1 payment. So very user friendly. And then moving on to some Big Brother stuff. The government, the United States Senate is considering a bill that would research the correlation between exposure to violent video games and behavior in youth. It would be tasked to the National Academy of Science. It would be millions of dollars, of course. And I, for one, actually kind of hope they do this, because I'd really like it to once and for all put an end to this discussion.
There hasn't been a conclusive study ever, and all the attempts that they've made, though, I agree that, if we can lay it to rest with something that is just irrefutable evidence that there is no correlation, then I'm fine with that. But in all the years since the 80s that they've been talking about games causing people to go out and commit horrendous violent acts, there has never been a correlation. There's been the proper word would probably be a causation. Do video games cause people to develop these tendencies, these violent acts? Correlation, there could exist a correlation, but is it an implicative correlation? Just because a killer played Grand Theft Auto does not mean that everyone who has played Grand Theft Auto is a killer. That's the same as saying because a criminal enjoys a good bowl of macaroni and cheese, that anyone who enjoys a good bowl of macaroni and cheese is a killer.
That's a correlation. For folks who don't know, a correlation is just something that's related, but is kind of just not. How do I word this? I don't know. Causation.
It's not caused. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a linear way of thinking. If I play Grand Theft Auto, am I going to go kill someone? No, I'm just not. If I play Grand Theft Auto and I go kill someone, it's not because of Grand Theft Auto, but I did play it. There's correlation there. Maybe, yeah, absolutely terrible. So, like, go into a little bit more depth here. What are they planning on doing?
It doesn't say. The article is actually more of how Activision has hired lobbyists to kind of like
lobbyists working for a good cause this time around.
Yeah, right. But I mean, this bill was introduced all the way back in January. It was one of the repercussions of the Newtown shooting. Afterwards, lots of members of the ESA, the Entertainment Software Association, and like ESRB, they're the ones who like rate games, and the ones who give them the mature rating or the T rating, or
an advocacy group.
Yeah. But they basically met with members of Congress. The Vice President Joe Biden met with him and kind of formulated all these things, and so now the bill is it's basically just getting pushed further down the line. It's closer to being voted on than it was in January, essentially.
All right, let's move on to a little bit of a lighter subject here. Actually, maybe not even a lighter subject, because the implications are interesting, I think. Lucas, I've been a Metal Gear fan for years now. We were talking earlier, and you said you had never played one, but it's a really interesting series, stealth action game for those of you who don't know. The main draw of the series, though, is its absolutely crazy story. It's so labyrinthian that people wrote, essays on it before the last couple of games were released and all the answers were solved miraculously. Nobody expect it was like Lost. You didn't expect answers because the mysteries were so labyrinthian. But for the new game, Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain, set to release in about a year, maybe a little more, I think. Hideo Kojima, the developer behind the game, the entire series since its inception, really, tweeted a couple of comments regarding redesigns to a few characters. He's basically saying, I've been ordering the people who've been doing these character designs to make the character more, quote, erotic. Let's see. I've been ordering to Yoji to make the character more erotic, and he did it well. Recently, I've been making characters this way, the game designer tweeted. Continuing, he said, the initial target is to make you want to do cosplay, costume play, people going out to conventions and dressing like their favorite characters, or to make its figurine sell well, merchandise. In particular, he mentioned Quiet. There's a character in the upcoming game called Quiet, and in every Metal Gear Solid game, there's like a legion of bosses who at some point in the game you fight each one, and they all have special abilities. Quiet, as far as we know in this game, is a mute sniper. And you see in one of the trailers that they've already released that she's wearing semi-typical military garb, not super scantily clad or anything like that. But her body, for whatever supernatural reason in the storyline, has the ability to camouflage itself on her skin. So which means that if she's wearing clothing, you can see it. If she's like her face, which obviously isn't covered, she can camouflage that. So I feel like that's probably going to be the main draw of that boss battle. But yeah, he said that he wants Quiet to be more erotic, more sexy, in order for people to want to cosplay her or other characters at conventions. In the end, he posted an example of his ideal cosplay for the character, complete with ripped pantyhose and leather thong. And I've seen this photo. It's a little ridiculous. It's not the worst I've ever seen, but it's like kind of like fishnet leggings, and there is a like ripped underwear and everything like that for the sake of sexy. And I don't know what you think, Lucas, but I feel like, especially in a story as centrally focused on, well, many things anyway, as Metal Gear, it doesn't feel necessary for this to come about. What do you think?
Yeah, it kind of seems like the problem with games is that the characters are all literally drawn up. They're created. So like unlike movies, it's not casting and whatnot. You can make the characters look exactly how you want them to. And people wonder why why the stereotype is young adolescent males as like its main consumers. Well, here you go, because they keep basically feeding that stereotype by making every chance they have to make a woman so often they make her as sexual as possible, as hypersexual as possible. I remember, I never played it, but I remember reading an article on it. I believe it was Ninja Gaiden Sigma 2 for the PlayStation 3. There was a feature where in the cutscenes you can move the analog sticks and it would move the character's breasts. Like, that's so ridiculous.
And let's not
so
forget
adolescent.
the Dead or Alive series, the fighting game originally, but it came out with the volleyball beach game, and developed, I quote, breast physics for the female characters in that game. Just very needless at this point. It's almost childish. I wonder how much of it, though. I don't want to make any implications at all, but does it have something to do with foreign society that we as Americans can't understand? Because to my understanding as a student, Japan seems like a very patriarchal society. I think most people would agree to that. It just seems like maybe someone needs to tell these people that, to tell every game designer that you can make a stirring character without hypersexualizing them. Even females like Elizabeth from BioShock Infinite, she was very attractive, but her character didn't come from the fact that she was attractive. It came from the acting and the storyline that they gave her and the nuances of the character. I still remember playing it, and there was a segment in there where if you pick up a guitar in the game on a command, she'll start singing a song, and that was one of the most riveting moments. She was still in her low-cut garb, but I didn't care about that. I was caring about the character more by the end. Or even Ellie from The Last of Us, a little 14-year-old girl who no one in their right mind should be sexually attracted to. She was a absolutely riveting character because she had all this character to her, this mystery, like why is she the way she is, and we learn about her over the course of the story.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I definitely have seen over the years, The Last of Us is a great example with Ellie, of designers really becoming more mature, when it comes to the characters and their creation. But yeah, it is really just childish, and I'd like to see it come to an end at some point. But I don't know. You were talking about like the fact that they're from Japan, and it's hard to really nail it down. But like there is a lot of difference between Japanese games and American games, and you've really seen, especially in the last couple of decades, Japanese games have kind of really fallen back in
They've
prominence.
taken a huge hit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this could be them trying to get that, really kind of maybe a misinterpretation. So obviously, like, America's number one, like, export is entertainment.
America.
And what sells entertainment? Sex sells.
Sex
It's
sells.
classic. And so this could just be them really just trying to appeal to Americans through sex appeal, even though a lot of people really do want more mature.
With regards to your comment on how Japanese game developers have sort of fallen by the wayside in relation to Western developers, I agree, and I think like that goes back to my comment about it being sort of a patriarchal society. The father sort of rules, the male in charge rules over everything, but it's indicative of how they lead their game studios too, because you'll hear stories about Asian developers slaving to the head developers every whim. Kojima is probably not the worst example of this by far, but other developers they don't take input as much from their lower staff, and that sort of creates a let's call it a George Lucas tunnel of vision. When you feel like you absolutely have to control everything, it creates a very narrow focus on a game, which isn't always a good thing. But yeah, that's a great topic. Maybe we'll bring it up again if something develops with that. I think Kojima may have been walking his statements back a little bit. We're going to take a break here, and we're going to play some music for you. This is Button Mash on WCRD.
Back to Button Mash. We've got some more news for you. The new NPD report just came out and suggests evidence of the importance of mobile gaming, particularly among adolescents. Obviously, in the last 5 years or so, smartphones have absolutely exploded. And it's really, in a new report titled Kids in Gaming 2013, shows that there's been a significant increase in mobile game usage among kids. And it indicates that kids of age 2 to 17 are spending, they were spending 5 hours a week in 2011, but as of 2013, now it's up to 7 hours a week.
Well, absolutely. That makes absolute sense because smartphones have become so synonymous with our everyday lives. The vast majority of us carry them around, and we're so constantly waiting on something more important to happen. Like we see students here in the hallways, walking to class, waiting an hour for their next class to happen. And what better thing to do than to play a game on your phone, which is right there.
Yeah, it's perfect. It really is.
And even for the younger generations too.
Yeah, for those like 5, 15-minute, even like 30-second gaps that you have just in between your daily activities, games on smartphones are perfect. Smartphones in general are perfect for that. You're on break at work, check your Twitter feed. You sitting outside of class, got 5 minutes before it starts. You don't have enough time to go home and do anything. So
kill some pigs and Angry Birds.
Exactly.
I remember back in high school we had too much time in our chorus class, and we found the mobile version of Risk, and that was the best mobile game I had ever played. We had about 10 people playing that game at once on a single smartphone, tossing it back and forth and killing each other. But yeah. Anything else in that story?
Well, I honestly, looking forward to the future, a lot of people are always saying like, oh, this is the last console cycle, or oh, there's not going to be another one. after it. But I could honestly see at some point what we now have as smartphones could eventually just completely take over consoles, just completely replace them. I mean, everything's kind of like being congregated into our smartphones.
Yeah,
They're
everything
really like a central hub for everything, and I could easily see that.
Everything's becoming singular. Everything's becoming a singularity. We use our PlayStations and our Xboxes for Netflix, for Hulu, for our games, for our chatting, for our browser surfing. The only reason we ever put any sort of device away is because it's more convenient to whip out your smartphone or your laptop or anything, and that's why mobile games again have become so successful. Is it's incredibly convenient to be able to take it out of my pocket and start playing a game in less than 15 seconds. Whereas, something big and bulky like a PlayStation or an Xbox, it takes a few minutes to get set up. You have to stay in the same spot. You, granted, the visual fidelity and many other things are of higher quality, but convenience is always king.
Right.
Moving on, looks like, Lucas, you're a big BioWare fan, aren't you?
Huge BioWare fan.
Well, you might be happy to hear that Electronic Arts has made Matthew Bromberg the new big dog at BioWare. They've been without a boss for almost a full year now since the co-founders retired in September 2012. Yesterday night, however, they revealed that the studio has a new shot caller, Matthew Bromberg, formerly the CEO of Major League Gaming. For those of you who don't know, MLG is essentially what it sounds like, Major League Gaming. It's a sports sort of conference, sort of competition. They always play various games, usually fighting and strategy games.
Yeah, StarCraft, Halo, Gears of
Street
War.
Fighter. Yeah,
Yes,
big draw in the community. Bromberg will assume the role of group general manager of the BioWare label, giving him overall responsibility for the vast majority of the BioWare studios, including Austin, Canada, Edmonton, and Montreal, and the Victory and Waystone studios. As far as the BioWare Canada studio, Aaron Flynn remains in charge, while Star Wars The Old Public producer Jeff Hickman will take over as the new GM at BioWare Austin. Bromberg was responsible for helping The Old Republic transition from a paid model to a free-to-play. So that's very interesting. It seems like EA, they know how to match their bosses in there. They know who works with money the best.
Yeah, see, this is interesting because as a former CEO of MLG, I could see him having a huge influence over the course of direction of their games in terms of like straying away from single player and more towards multiplayer.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully not completely scrapping single player. I mean, that's what BioWare is known for. BioWare is known for creating these vast, sprawling RPGs with you get a party of characters and you interact with them. You go on various quests and adventures and missions across, fictional.
And in recent years, even those games have seen a surge of multiplayer focus or creating a sort of always online experience.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there was The Old Republic that came out a few years ago, but Mass Effect 3 was the first in the series to have multiplayer, and I was pleasantly surprised with it.
It fared well?
It did. See, the problem is that a lot of, obviously, multiplayer has gotten huge in the last 5 years, thanks to household names such as Call of Duty, Halo, and whatnot. And so what you've seen is a lot of these traditionally single-player series straying into the multiplayer waters in hopes of increasing the longevity of their product. So they're trying to make it more appealing to consumers, because why would you buy a single player game that will last you 10 hours when you could buy a game that has a 10-hour single player but also a multiplayer mode that could last you for tens more hours? You saw it happen with BioShock and with Dead Space, and they didn't do very well. And
even Last of Us, which thank God enough
Last of Us did
has a
great.
solid
That was a
multiplayer mode. That was a pleasant surprise.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sadly enough, that there are statistics to show that adding a multiplayer or some sort of multiplayer mode does increase the chances that a game is going to sell well, because the average consumer does perceive that, it has both, therefore it's worth more of the $60 purchase. Where someone who's more into games like me or Lucas might appreciate a more extensive single player experience.
Right. Yeah. See, the biggest problem though that developers have had with transitioning their games, the gameplay, the core mechanics, what makes their games enjoyable, taking that from single player to multiplayer, is the fact that they've always done it player versus player, and that's a completely different ball game because you not only have to worry about what one player is worrying about, you have to worry about the other, and then there's that third realm of that interaction between them. So co-op is much easier to transition to from single player because you don't have to worry about the guy on the receiving end of, because when you have people face each other, there's always going to be a winner and there's going to be a loser, and it's very difficult to make the game enjoyable for the loser. You have to really balance it accordingly, but with co-op, the loser is always just going to be the AI. It's going to be the computer, so you don't have to worry about them because they don't have feelings and emotions. They're not going to get upset, throw the controller across the room, and never buy your game again and send you mean, nasty tweets.
Oh my God! Okay, all the 12-year-olds on the internet. Yeah, making it more of a participatory rather than negatory sort of interaction is always good. That's why games like Journey for the PlayStation 3, developed by that game company, succeeded so well with their multiplayer component.
That game company, that's the actual name of the game company, is that game company. Yeah,
I'm not just an amateur here. Yeah, in that game, I loved its multiplayer aspect because even though it was advertised sort of as a single player grand journey experience, when another player came into the story, they couldn't screw up anything. They couldn't talk to you. They couldn't derail your game really in any way. They essentially, you were forced to communicate only via nonsensical chirps and, like, hey, come over here, or like getting your attention essentially. And I think more games might benefit from something like that. Maybe not necessarily a voice chat component, because the sad truth is there are a lot of racist 12-year-olds out there who will say terrible things or just not care about the game. And I'd honestly prefer something to where we admit the reality that gamers are not always kind folk, that we streamline our experience to become something more like Journey, where no matter what someone else does, the experience can't really be ruined for you.
Yeah, I don't see it as a problem with gamers being a particularly nasty demographic. I just see it as human beings being particularly nasty when the ambiguity of the internet allows them to, because there's no repercussions for saying awful, terrible things to one another. Yeah, is that there's no repercussions. You can say whatever you want and get away with it.
All right, on the next story, I'm excited about this. I've always been a Riddick fan. Pitch Black and Chronicles of Riddick were kind of really cool, smaller budget productions, but they had a cool story, and Vin Diesel was just coming off of the high of the Fast and Furious franchise. I've never really cared for the Fast and Furious franchise, but it's impossible to say that the man doesn't have a certain charisma about him as far as action films go. So Vin Diesel recently did an interview with Screen Crush where he let some news slip about a new Riddick game that's in development. Quote, "My diehard gamers want Tygon to deliver the third chapter in the Riddick game." Diesel tells Screen Crush, "We just of the past couple of months, just this year, reassembled that team from Starbreeze that brought Escape from Butcher Bay to create the third game." Lucas, did you ever play the Escape from Butcher Bay game? Or
once again, you have today brought up a game I have not played.
It's okay. There's plenty I haven't.
We need to find common ground. We need to be better at that.
It was a really good game. It was another sort of stealth action platformer. Vin Diesel, did you watch those movies at all?
Yeah, I've seen them.
And yeah, for those of you who haven't, Vin Diesel's character Riddick is essentially a fugitive constantly on the run, with a sort of like cybernetically enhanced vision and reflexes and everything like that. And the game was essentially escaping from this interstellar prison. And it got a lot of good reception. I think the sequel didn't do as well because it was sort of really bug-riddled. But the fact that there's a third game in the series and that they probably have the benefit of hindsight this time around is really exciting.
Riddick was riddled 10 times fast.
Riddick was riddled. Says Starbreeze Studios worked on Escape from Butcher Bay. And the second game was, Assault on Dark Athena. That was the one that didn't do as well. But as Diesel said, it's the Butcher Bay team working on the new project, so there is hope. Lucas, do you got another story for us?
Yeah. Well, obviously with the new consoles coming out, a lot of people get worried. They might feel pressured into buying it. But good news, Microsoft plans on supporting the Xbox 360 for 3 more years, which is, I think, like a bit longer than usual. Actually, they were pretty quick to kind of kicking the original Xbox to the curb.
Yeah.
When the 360 came out, and I think they're really learning from
The
that
only
mistake.
only game that they really supported after the 360 came out on the Xbox was Halo 2, and even then, a couple years back, they absolutely slammed down. There was a news story where people refused to sign off of Halo 2.
That was
and
actually kind of funny. It lasted about a month. They
month.
couldn't shut the servers down
Yep.
because there were people still on them. They had to wait for them to get off. But then, eventually they found a loophole or something, and we're just like, no, we're shutting you down.
I want to go home. I have family. So, so there's going to be a bit of support for there. So for 3 years, I think part of that is the PlayStation 2 was supported for many years after the PlayStation 3's release too. In fact, I think it still is, with a couple of games per year. And that's primarily because aside from America and other first world countries, the PlayStation 2 at this point is very easy to buy, very easy to sort of set up in a lower income household. FIFA is one of the examples of the game that they still produce on the PlayStation 2 because in countries like Brazil and Mexico and some European countries where there's less income, the game is soccer is their lifeblood over there. So having that game over there available for the cheaper system is essentially guaranteeing yourself a decent sale.
Yeah, I mean, it's still profitable. I know particularly, Sony doesn't see much money from it. Well, okay, never mind. They don't see any money from it. But the pre-owned sales of PlayStation 2 games for a very long time were highly profitable. Because that's really like the only PS2 games that were being sold were pre-owned ones. And pre-owned games being sold at GameStop are immense more profit than new games being sold. And then going back to the support for the Xbox 360 for the next couple of years, they said they'll be shipping more than 100 new games on the Xbox 360.
Wow.
So, yeah, so a lot of games that you're going to be seeing coming out for the next few years are going to be coming out simultaneously for this new generation as well as the previous one. And by new generation, I mean Xbox One and PlayStation 4, and previous as Xbox 360. And
it's a smart business move, realizing that people aren't going to buy these new consoles right off the bat. The economy isn't as strong as it once was, and yeah, excellent support for them.
Well, yeah, I mean, even if it goes further than just the economy. I mean, when it comes to new technology, there's the early adopters, and then after them comes like the early mass crowd, and then comes like the even larger amount of the crowd, and then there's like the people like the stragglers after that, yeah,
who buy their games for $20 because they waited 5 years.
Yeah.
All right, I think we're going to take a break here. We'll play another song for you. When we come back, we're going to talk the new Call of Duty Ghost trailer. This is Button Mash on WCRD.
Welcome back, everybody. This is Button Mash. I'm your host, Lucas Schmidt, and with me is...
Joe Newt, the beautiful.
Always. Well, yesterday... Oh, no, actually not yesterday. A couple of days ago. A bunch of unannounced games got leaked from Ubisoft. Ubisoft, for those unaware, they hold such franchises as Assassin's Creed, Rayman, all the Tom Clancy titles, which are just everywhere, every year. But they got leaked. And probably the biggest one is another Assassin's Creed. Surprise, surprise. Although this one, it's a little blunt in the title as to where it's going to be taking place.
What is
when,
the title,
rather.
Lucas?
It's Assassin's Creed Pirates. Yarg. But yeah, which is kind of actually a little surprising, I feel like, seeing as how Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag is coming out in a couple months, is already a pirate themed Assassin's Creed.
It is all pirates.
Yeah. So they must.
Is it a placeholder title, or is it a mobile title like for Vita or something? Is it a console title?
I'm literally the only things that got leaked were the logos.
The logos.
Yeah. So it was logos for.
Okay.
There was another Assassin's Creed as well. It's Assassin's Creed Liberation HD, which one could speculate will be a console port of Assassin's Creed Liberation, because Assassin's Creed Liberation was a Vita title that came out last year around the time that Assassin's Creed 3 came out.
I think their smartest bet is Assassin's Creed Pirates has got to be like another Vita style game, because having Assassin's Creed Black Flag, which screams pirates, and then if you put Assassin's Creed Pirates on a console, there's going to be so much market dilution there that nobody's going to know what they're buying anymore.
Yeah, but then again, Ubisoft's strategy, and this was actually stated by one of their bigwigs. I don't know exactly who it was. I don't know if it was a CEO or whatever. But basically, their marketing strategy, their plan with their series, their franchises, is to basically
run them into the ground.
Milk it as much as they can, run it into the ground, and then when it finally slows down and stops showing profit, they just take it off the market. And they take it off the market for like however long they need to, 4, 5 years, something like that. And then once it's been gone for a while and people are like, hey, I really miss that franchise, then they bring it back. And by bringing it back after so long,
some mutant version of nostalgia.
Yeah, if you wait like 5 years for the next iteration of an IP, then there's going to be significant changes, because the video games, they grow so much every year.
So fast.
Like,
I'm going to be honest, though. I haven't cared about Assassin's Creed since Revelations and 3. 3 absolutely broke my heart because it looked so wonderful and so revolutionary, and the game itself...
Unintended.
Caught myself there. But the game itself was just terrible. I hated it. Some people I know loved it. I thought it was just a clunky mess of there's too much to do. There's no good way to do it. The free running in the trees, admittedly, was a pretty cool technical feat, but everything else in the game was just agonizing. And the story, I want to deck whoever penned the end for that story, because it is the pinnacle of, come back next time for more money.
Okay, yeah. I have a question, though. Was it worse than... Oh, wait, never mind. You haven't played Mass Effect, have you?
No.
Oh, all right. I was
worse than the Mass Effect 3 ending? Probably not.
I know you certainly heard about the ending.
No one sent like major death threats over the Assassin's Creed ending. We were all just like, ugh.
No, it's okay, because that's not what people play Assassin's Creed for. At least I'd hope not. I've never been too appealed to the story.
I'll give it a rental. I'll give Assassin's Creed Black Flag a rental this time around, because they're not getting any more of my money, and that's really sad. Because
I've never bought an Assassin's Creed game. I got one for Christmas when I was young. I got Assassin's Creed.
Yeah, I think I did
Christmas
too. Yeah,
back in high school, but yeah, it's really
that game was worth a buy because it was just so long. But let's move on to our big old topic of the week. Yesterday, Tuesday, if you're hearing this correctly, on Thursday, the new Call of Duty Ghost trailer came out, featuring the campaign and everything. It's a really kind of interesting trailer. The biggest thing I took away from it was Call of Duty is finally living up to the reality of its crazy, wacky story. It's not America gung-ho. It's not, oh wow, the British are so cool. Look at these SAS guys saying oi all the time, and the fact that it's more of a, I don't want to say post-apocalyptic, but definitely a darker sort of title, is kind of appealing to me more than any of the previous titles had. What do you think?
Well, I just like some of the ridiculousness in the trailer. For instance, there were astronauts with guns, and they were shooting at each other in space.
Teach us science,
and
Lucas.
I really hope that is a multiplayer portion, because that would actually get me to rent the game. I will not buy it, but I might rent it or at least borrow it from a friend, if I can play as an astronaut in space and shoot each other. I love that some people actually got nitpicky and complained about that, about how the physics of guns wouldn't work in space. And to that
Science.
I say, do you even Call of Duty?
Call of Duty.
Yeah.
Logic does
Also,
not work here.
a dog. You see,
We've known about the dog for a while.
The biggest thing that they've been seeming to drive in Call of Duty Ghosts is that there's dogs. They can't like just express enough how awesome it is that they have dogs, and like how prevalent dogs are in this game. But in the trailer, a dog takes down a helicopter. Yeah, you heard that right. The thing is, it's a small, like, 2-person, like, little scout chopper, and it's starting to go off the ground. Dog's like, nope, and just runs after it. Yeah, Scooby-Doo hardcore. He jumps up and grabs the pilot and just starts dragging him out, and, chopper comes down. Dog 1, chopper 0.
Do you think the gameplay is going to change at all? Because it seems like...
It's not to think, it's that I know it's not going to change.
I want it so bad, though. I want it so badly, too, though, because it seems like some segments of the game are focused more on not stealth, because that's just not Call of Duty's bread and butter, but I don't know, maybe not as big, bombastic World War III-esque scenarios. I don't know if we're going to see... I want that more personalized sort of tale. Just like The Last of Us was a complete departure from Uncharted, you can still have amazing action with a tighter, constricted sort of method to your madness.
Yeah, but see, you can't really get into the characters in Call of Duty. They never put an emphasis on them. So often... video games, I've read a lot of interviews and such with developers, but it seems a lot of times story in games is really kind of tacked in at the end. So really the developers will be like, this would be an awesome scene if we made this explode, and then when it explodes, it makes this explode. And then like the player can shoot those guys, and it'll be cool and awesome, and they'll love it because it's Call of Duty. And it's so much fun to shoot stuff in Call of Duty. And then they just kind of, at the end, bring in a writer and like, hey, we have all these awesome, exciting war events. Now string them together into a semi-coherent storyline.
Yeah, make it semi-coherent. Yeah, that was one of the problems that I had with that sort of writing mentality. I had a problem with it in Uncharted 3. There were interviews coming out before the game release that the lead developer behind it said, oh, we thought of all these cool scenarios Drake could find himself in, and then we created a story around it. And I'm like, that's not what you do. You make a compelling story, and you find compelling reasons for him to end up where he ends up.
Yeah, so you really build them side by side and have them feed off of each other.
And that led to a lot of problems in that game for me. Like, entire stretches of that game felt unnecessary because nothing significant happened other than, oh, cool. None of that mattered, but cool.
That can happen a lot of times in games. I actually feel as though game storylines need to be shorter, which I feel a lot of people are going to cry nay to that. But you see a lot of times people want the campaign to be as long as possible because they want to get as much of their money's worth out of it.
Yeah.
But I feel like so often when developers try to stretch the length of their games, it kind of dilutes those.
You get exhausted.
Yeah, because
and you start
something
to not
will
care.
happen, a significant event will happen between characters, the narrative, whatever, and then there will be like an hour of you just going and doing gamey, and that's not a real word, it's what I'm using.
A stretch of gameplay.
Gamey tasks. Yeah, it's just like, go find these 9 puzzle pieces so that you can get through this door. Doors are constantly locked in every game. It's terrible, ridiculous, but that's just how it is. It's just these minuscule, mindless tasks, and then you kind of and then the story gets kind of pushed into the back of your mind, and you kind of forget about it.
It's a balance you have to find. And going back to The Last of Us, I think it could have gone really wrong. I know you've played this, Lucas, and did you feel a similar sort of exhaustion by the end of that game? Like,
no, not as much.
No, really?
No.
Well, when I had played it, by the time I had finished the entire game, I was just absolutely exhausted. Like, I needed sleep after that game, and I feel like...
Well, I mean, I was exhausted simply because I played it for so many hours straight because I couldn't put it down.
Part of that, but also the storyline was, like, weighing so heavily on you. And the game was so long. Like, it takes place over a year, and, like, they have very lengthy segments of story, action mixed together, and... There's nothing wrong with having a 6-hour campaign, but you have to face the fact that I don't want to pay $60. I don't want to pay $10 for an hour worth of content. That's just not good to me as a consumer. That makes me not want to buy your game.
Right.
All right. I think we're at the 11-minute mark there, so let's take a break. We'll give our goodbyes in a second here. This is Button Mash on WCRD. Welcome back. This has been Button Mash. I want to thank you guys for tuning in today. I'm Joseph Knoop, and with me as always has been the beautiful
Lucas Schmidt.
So we're going to take it. I think we're going to end the show here tonight. You can find us on Twitter and Facebook, Button Mash BSU. That's Button Mash BSU. Feel free to tweet us any questions anytime. We're always going to tweet out, hey, here's the topics we're talking about this week. And do you want to ask any questions? We'll always take any. We'll give a shout out to you if you do. And yeah, Lucas?
Yeah, and we'll also be continually posting content, whether it's more news stories, various opinions we have, funny observations, or even, hey, just funny pictures or cool new screenshots of games or trailers, whatnot. Anything you want to know, it'll show up in your news feed. Just be sure to like us or follow us on Twitter. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter.
Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter. Yep. We're going to keep a nice streamlined flow of entertainment and news for you guys. This has been Button Mash. I'm Joe.
And I'm Lucas.
See you guys.
Have a good one.